first person for this session, which is Technomics, basically, which is talking a little bit about technology, enterprises, businesses, and we have a beautiful mixture today. We will start provider, and then we will move to the educator from the university, and then we will hear from a client of these technologies. So I may invite Mr. Srusti, who is the CEO and co-founder of FourSpots, to educate us a little about some of the challenges maybe in the business and the enterprises and how they are addressing these challenges. So Srusti, if you may join us.
Yeah, during 90s, and that's what we were discussing, Ahmed and Rafi and all. During 90s, they used to call me a IT expert. And all I knew was a little bit of COBOL and C. Today, if I look back, I think I had a better job than what some of our CFOs, IT managers, and the owners have currently. This is a typical IT manager in a company. It's dealing with a lot of technologies and obviously looking confused, hands down. He is dealing with big data, analytics, hybrid clouds, infinite data centers, fabric data centers, lot of terms which are really confusing, and lot of technology which need to be implemented in a very short time with obviously less budget. And obviously, in MENA region, we have a trend. When we ask for timeline, we say, do it yesterday. So this is our IT manager, if you look at there. So today, we have more challenges for the companies or enterprises than what we used to have. Because I hate challenges, I just converted that to opportunity. This also brings a lot of opportunity for the enterprises, and we need to cash in from that. If we keep talking about challenges, we will not look forward. What I observed, that we have three types of companies whenever it comes to implementing technology, and the categories are here. Dormant or complacent. Why I included complacent here? Everybody knows about the story of BlackBerry or a Nokia. They were sitting happy with being the market leader, and suddenly there is a change in technology. Suddenly there is a touch screen comes in from iPhone, and before they realize in a year, they're completely outdated. So I have placed complacent companies are also like dormant companies. So either they are working or they are not working, even if they are big, small, popular. Second level is reactive companies. Reactive companies are those who are implementing technology just because somebody else has implemented. I don't want to name few companies, but you can still put Microsoft in the frame here. No Microsoft guys hopefully will be angry over me. Then the third category is proactive companies. What are these proactive companies? They implement major chunk of the technology by understanding consumer behavior. Now before I proceed, although we have small crowd, let's do a vote. You're working in your own company. How do you find your company is in category 1, 2, or 3? 1, please raise your hand. I'm so happy. What about the second one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go. We don't have any issue. We sorted out everything. I assume that most of you are belonging to proactive companies. And let's see that in our course of presentation, we'll talk about this. Now, the challenges for any enterprises of our IT manager or like CTOs will be how to push their company from the dormant level to proactive level. And how do we do that? Whenever I meet companies, they often tell me, we know that, we have heard that, we know what to do, but we just don't know where to start. We have heard about this, we have heard about that, but starting is the issue with a lot of companies. Is your company facing the same? Just bear with me. I think it's... Yeah? So how do we identify that? So what we do, we create committees. We give them a task that our company need to improve. Technology need to be implemented, so we put strong IT team, business leaders inside that committee, and we take a decision. Smarter companies create a research and development team, which is almost non-existent in our part of the world. This small research and development team constantly comes up with new ideas in implementing technology. That takes the company forward. But whenever we ask, was that the decision of these committee or research and development? When most of them say yes, I have observed that this is because of consumer behavior. It's not because of whether the IT team is capable of pulling off new technology or there is a need. It's because of consumer behavior. So whenever we need to do something in terms of implementing technology, we need to keep a strong eye over consumer behavior. And we will see that. This is a common question. Often a lot of companies in Bahrain ask, why do we need mobile apps? The answer is obvious, because the consumer is using a smartphone and the company wants to implement apps to attract them, correct? Because the consumer's behavior is shifting towards the mobile applications, the company decides to implement it. Not because the R&D team recommends or not because of our IT experts thinks they can. The company, our company, this imaginary company decides to implement a lot of applications. Initially, they decided to do it for iOS. Then Android became popular, so they developed for Android. Then the Microsoft guys are becoming popular, so they also keep an eye over them. So they started developing for the whole range of native application. Managing these individual applications started becoming complex. I'm sure a lot of IT managers here would agree. The managing multiple applications is not easy. So what we came up with the concept called hybrid apps. What it does, it appears to be native. It has a native feel. It uses some of the native features like cameras, folders. But at the same time, it uses web predominantly. So we can develop once and use for multiple applications. Watch closely. We didn't say that hybrid application is needed. We also didn't say that consumer behavior was shifting towards hybrid application. Consumer behavior was only towards mobile applications. But hybrid application is a byproduct of it. So my theory is, most of the time, it is either the consumer directly or indirectly is responsible for implementation of technology. So my imaginary company here also does little bit of research and finds it. Look at the stats. Mobile applications are increasing in the region because of smartphone penetration. And Qatar is leading with 70%, Oman is 68%, we are not too far behind in 36%. Saudi is expanding to 63%. So if the smartphone are becoming predominant, obviously they will be asking for mobile application. If they ask for mobile application, the enterprise will make those mobile applications. If they will make enterprise applications, there will be more issues. And how do these applications work? We have a concept called client and cloud. Because smartphones are not really smart yet in terms of processing power, we try to store that in cloud. We outsource the processing power to the cloud. So, lot of burden over the client, which is the mobile application, will be shared by the server. Advantages: better control, better management, of course, because I can expand the cloud the way I want. I don't want to spoil the show because Rafi is speaking a lot about big data and cloud tomorrow. Did you again notice that this client cloud infrastructure is again determined by consumer behavior? So my imaginary company now decides, we have created a lot of applications. Now we have a better cloud structure. And what should we do now? What's the next? How do we know what our consumer wants? This quest leads to a big challenge of today's enterprise called ROPO. We say research online, purchase offline. By end of 2014, 53% of total retail sales will be determined by web. A lot of time we have this confusion in Bahrain when you talk about web or e-commerce, they think about buying products or services online. That's just part of e-commerce. That's not the entire realm of e-commerce. A lot of time people come do research in your site to find out about your product and services. I don't remember when I last went to a meeting when I just walked in without knowing whom I'm meeting to. And the first thing I would obviously do is not to pick up a phone and ask, hey, can you please tell me about your company? I would obviously do in a stealth mode in browsing their website, right? And I hope all of you do the same. Now, doing research online is a major part of today's enterprise. And how they facilitate that defines the success or failure of their organization. MENA region is also not too far. We have 66% of users who's browsing and doing research in internet before purchasing. Especially Saudi these days is increasing. There's a study done by Forrester. 18 to 36% of people who are doing research online are more prone to buy. Now, it's not a rocket science that we can advise freely to any enterprise that go ahead and implement your online methods to facilitate ROPO. If you can master ROPO, then you are done. 67% of our consumer base of this imaginary company and as well of the world They leave the website, they don't do purchase, they don't do any contact because there isn't enough information. And certainly, you don't want your company to be part of that. That's why when I say that consumer behavior defines technology, is exactly this. Because my consumer wants me to put products and information online, I need to put. Google, Bing, and other search engines are giving us amazing tool. We often, instead of typing the URL, we just go in Google and search, and then click on the URL. I'm sure most of you do that. But on a serious note, 2/3 of products and service researches are done over the search engine. So 64% of consumers have made their first purchase either by browsing a website or using a coupon or a microsite or a campaign. What my imaginary company does now, my imaginary company now looks at if the research is a prime criteria to impress the consumer and facilitate online sales, how about we get into e-commerce? So they did a lot of research. So this company finds out that there are 72.5 million internet users in MENA region. 33% of MENA consumers make online purchases. Not bad. Almost all my friends have a shop and ship account and they do a lot of purchases. So if I will be considered as one of the target audience, I fall within this 33. $15 billion by 2015. That's the online B2C commerce we are expecting in the region. Of course, Dubai is leading, Saudi is second, but MENA region as a whole is going to flourish in e-commerce. But B2B companies are also not too far. B2B commerce, which is in between companies, companies selling to each other, which sometimes we refer as wholesale, is going to increase twice every year for next 5 years. That's in our region. So this company finds out all this data, what we call consumer behavior, assembles this data into business analytics. Why they need to do that? So that they can answer questions which usually doesn't feature in any company's marketing or sales strategy. For example, you are selling t-shirts, but can you say that how many white t-shirts you sold in, say, February 2014? And how many of those are purchased by, say, corporate? So there are a lot of questions need to be answered about consumer behavior. And our companies need to be equipped. So what they did, they started collecting all the data. Once they started collecting data, the platform is ready to answer their questions which typically we don't ask, or if we ask, we don't have an answer, so we skip. That brings the burden over a lot of our IT team. Because to facilitate that, they need to have software platform, hardware platform, analyzing more data, provide faster result, eliminate data duplication. At the same time, ensuring that there is a high uptime. The more analysis, the more consumer, the more data we want to answer, the more report we need to prepare for the managers who will take a decision on behalf of company, leads to big data. What a big data? What is big data? Of course, Rafi will be speaking more about that, but in short, where we cannot use our typical RDBMS or DBMS we have, or the databases we have, to either process data or to do curation or storage. Big data is big. How big is the big data? 2.5 billion pieces of content, which is like your photos, your posts, your status messages, everything is done every day by Facebook. And that's big data, which is 500 plus TB of data per day. We often talk about eBay's large facility, and that's what we were speaking to Francis, who's from eBay and PayPal yesterday, had a visit to our office. And we always surprised how they handle so much of data. eBay has warehouse to handle 90 PB of data. All this data is about consumer behavior. What you are buying, what you are willing to buy, why you are buying that, and which companies are taking the lead, what you should do to be successful. Amazon is not far behind. 137 million customers a week. Can we call it big data? Please raise your hands. Who say? This is definitely big. 19.5 million customers daily. Now this company decides we have implemented a big data platform, and we can now, of course, analyze the consumer behavior, and we can respond to the market much more quicker than what we used to do. But what about their internal team? To handle so much of customer, they need to be more collaborated, right? It's all about reporting to system, not to individuals. And a lot of time, IT managers say, collaboration, oh, that's too complex. We really can't implement in our company. Why do we say that? Collaboration can be really small and can be also expanded. For example, we are doing a lot of collaboration using Dropbox in our company. Why we do that? So I don't have to keep sending a file through email. I know a lot of companies who do document editing over Google Docs, which is Drive today. So they can modify content on fly. They can collaborate. Collaboration is all about defining a shared goal, that this is what we need to do. Have a skilled facilitator that you need to do this, you don't need to do that. And have a strong platform. Most of our IT decision makers are focusing on the third point, having a strong platform. And that's their responsibility, to have a strong platform. Now there are debates whether you need to do it in-house or you need to do it to cloud, or how much of security you need to implement. Over the next 2 days, you will be getting a lot of these things answered. But the common question is, for a decision maker, is to look after consumer behavior, which in turn influences collaboration, big data, and so on and so forth technology. Also, we have a shift towards personal cloud. We have noticed, like, I receive a call and say, hey, can you please send me that file? I can't afford to say, oh, I left it in my office desktop. We want to handle the business on move. And that's the ideal business. And that's the reactive and proactive business. When these personal cloud is increasing, that leads to a bigger problem, which again we will discuss. That is BYOD. Bring your own device. There are so many things you will be having. You will have an iPhone, you will have a Surface tablet, you will have a desktop, you will have a laptop, but you want your data to be common. So in any device you can handle the question. From any device you can edit it. From any device you can share a file. But what if someone leaves the company and your files are there in that mobile he was using for the company? That forced the IT management to implement security policies, which is BYOD, bring your own device. Now what I'm trying to highlight here is BYOD was not a technology generated from or didn't come from the IT management. It came from the consumer behavior. Because the consumer wants you to answer his queries on fly, your team need to be ready. If your team needs to be ready, they need to have lot of mobile devices and platforms. If they need to have these, you need to implement a security policy. I wish I could have just put this whole PowerPoint in one slide, but this is the recap. Consumer behavior study is done. That leads to implementation of technology. That leads to more problems like cloud and BOIOD. I say challenges. We can also say opportunity. But for the time being, let's call it as problem. We find solutions for it. That leads to more consumers. More consumer leads to more consumer behavior data. Again, we implement more study, more technology. So if you go back to the first three companies we talked about, you want to implement all of these to be part of being a proactive company. If you respond to what other companies are implementing, you will be far behind. You can tweet me, you can email me if you have any questions, and I'm sure we also have a question hour session. Over to other guests. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very nice speech, rich with information. It reminded me with a lot of things, and it brought a lot of questions to me, in fact, because a cloud is the new topic everybody is talking about. But you know, I'm coming from the very old school. You know, I'm used to having somebody called help desk. You know, when I want to do copy and paste, I cannot do it. I go physically to somebody else and ask him or her how to do the cut and paste. Now these guys talking about cloud computing and all this. I don't know whom to call, you know, when you have a problem or when you have an issue or when you have something lost, for example. All these topics and questions are coming up, and who is driving the consumer behavior? That's the big question, I think. That's the $1 million question. If I answer it, I should get the $1 million, by the way. But is it the consumer? Is it the vendors? I know vendors are driving people crazy with faster, better, slimmer when it comes to technology, when it comes to everything from smartphone, from computer, lighter in weight, faster in speed. Microsoft, they are very good and coming up with new things, more beautiful things, and that's making the technology more attractive and more attractive. But do we need the fastest? Do we need the latest? Do we need the most beautiful piece of this technology? Do we need it or do we want it, you know? All these things are very important. What I believe personally is the person and the judge in enlightening us in this is the education. This is where education and the importance of education is very important. And that's why we have with us here Dr. Kondal Reddy Kandadi, who will be enlightening us a little bit about where the education plays, what's the role of education, what are we going to learn today, what did we learn in the past, and what we are going to learn in the future. Just one example, for example, one day I got a call from my kid at home saying, "Dad, I was busy at work, but my son had a problem. It was a disaster from the way it sounded on the phone that the internet was not working at home." I said, "Okay, but I'm busy now." He said, "No, but I need the internet right now." I said to him, "So you have to wait until I come home." He said, "No, I cannot wait." I said to him, "Son, I started my career with IBM, and in those days, there was no internet. There was no internet anywhere in the world." You know what he said? He said, "Dad, how did you live those days, you know?" That comment, I will always remember it. So I leave you with Doctor to tell us what things are happening today and in the future.
Good morning. I'm going to focus my presentation on the theme of education, knowledge sharing, but more importantly, the topic of the presentation today is mostly around research and SMEs, small and medium enterprises, and how the e-business technology strategies are being adopted in the cloud computing era. Now, slide I'm going to show next in a minute does have some historical context. The history is important. When I say history, it's only 10 years ago. Traditionally, to implement latest technologies, whether it's e-business or ERP systems, to implement latest technologies, it required huge investments. And latest technology was the turf of large companies. Now that traditional model was turned upside down in the last 3 years or so because of the cloud computing. We'll see how. For example, I was reading Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago. If you look at WhatsApp as a company, in every dimension, it was a small company. European definition says less than 250 employees and the revenues below 50 million euros makes a small and medium enterprise. It was a small company with less than 100 employees, WhatsApp. The valuation it received when Facebook took over is 20 billion US dollars. Now, a small company, 20 billion US dollars, probably equivalent to many large global corporations, a GDP of some of African countries. So how does these small companies are innovating using cloud computing and many other latest advancements? So that would be the essence of my presentation today, how the world of business, especially business, was turned upside down and providing innovation opportunities for SMEs. Okay, now don't worry about the complexity of the diagram, but what it basically says is on the x-axis, the stick man, you could see at the bottom of the ladder, the stick man, the small stick man at the bottom of the ladder is a small business who wants to make a mark on the e-business landscape. The ladder is how you progress on the e-business landscape. Now, on the x-axis, you have the investments required. So if you want to move on the e-business landscape for a small business, traditionally, it required a lot of investments on the x-axis. On the y-axis, you have degree of complexity. What we mean by that is to implement, let's say, an e-shop or a CRM system or online ERP system or web analytics, it requires education and knowledge, IT teams, and so on. So for a small company, these are quite difficult things to achieve. So to invest huge amounts of money on technology on x-axis and to invest in knowledge resources, education, to bring that knowledge and to apply that technology to improve the revenues and profits, these are quite complex. Now, for a small business in many of the Western economies, and of course in the Middle East, a lot of help is required. Governments, universities, banks and financial corporations do play a role in terms of financing, educating the small companies and the employees to actually gain the knowledge about these latest technologies and move on the e-business landscape. So everybody has a role to play in order to create an environment of innovation so that companies move on this e-business ladder. At the lowest level of the e-business, companies would start using an email. We studied about 150 companies in the northwest of England, basically from 2 or 3 man band companies up to Airbus, which has its wing manufacturing unit in Northern Wales. So our study shows that basically small companies starts with emails, online buying, procuring stuff from online banking, establishing a static website, then offering their products and services online, e-shop, e-CRM, providing customer service online, and they move on up to industry collaborative network, value chain integration, which means connecting with the suppliers, customers, online procurement, dynamic procurement systems, which updates inventories online, which procures material online as the customers buy. So it could go quite complex as you move on the e-business ladder. So for an SME to go step by step, it required historically investments on the x-axis and knowledge acquisition on the y-axis. So it was difficult. Historically, it was difficult for a small business to move up on the ladder. So keep that ladder in mind for a few minutes, and let's see how the cloud computing is influencing that movement of small businesses from the lowest step on the ladder to the highest step. What is cloud computing? Most of you are advanced users of technology. I won't waste too much time, but just a quick snapshot of what cloud computing is. It's clusters of computers or bunch of computers staying far away from your company. A large, vast data centers. For example, if you take the cloud of Amazon, Amazon is a company, its cloud centers are size of football pitches. The server farms are more than the size of football pitches. So these are huge computers, connected computers in simple terms, which are providing on-demand resources, computing resources, software resources, and so on. So these services, cloud infrastructure, can be accessed anywhere using your personal computer, laptop, mobile phone, as Srishti was suggesting. So basically, clusters of computers with huge amount of computing power or software residing far away. How the cloud computing services were offered? Pay-per-use model. So imagine that small SME in the previous diagram, the stickman. Now that stickman can actually access these advanced technologies pay-per-use model, through pay-per-use model. So this small business doesn't need to invest millions of dollars or dinars. Now they can actually access this cloud computing services through pay-per-use model. The cloud computing also enables convenient and on-demand network access. What we mean by that is, traditionally, if you want to implement a CRM system or some kind of software system, you need to buy the software. A small company needs to install the software, switch it on, train the employees, and so on. The cycle time varied from months to years in some cases. Whereas now, the software you require is there on the cloud. You switch the button, pay per use model, and it's ready to be used. It's ready to be used. So it's on-demand network access. It requires minimal management. You do not require huge IT teams to manage the software, the hardware, the servers, and so on, because it will be managed for you as a small business by the cloud service provider themselves. So basically, a quick snapshot. So what type of cloud services and deployment models? We have private clouds, which means if you're a large organization, large enterprise, you can build your own cloud. So that's a private cloud. You know, it's restricted to yourselves. Public cloud, which is you could sell the services through the cloud, like Amazon, Google, Dropbox. They're all public clouds which sell the services to various companies. Hybrid. Hybrid is nothing but you may have your own cloud, but not all things you require may be there on the cloud. So you have your own cloud, but you're also using other people's cloud resources because you may not have the software required, so you're going out and buying. So it's a mixture of your own cloud and public cloud where you serve. So what kind of services at a very broad level? That includes SaaS, software as a service, which means basically if you require a software like MS Office at a basic level to an ERP system, a SAP Business One, these software you don't need to buy now. You could actually access this software through the cloud provider. So the cloud provider is doing a service, is providing software as a service. So it is based software. Platform as a service. If you are a software development company, IT development company, or mobile app development company, you do not require buying stuff like Visual Studio and quite advanced software. You could actually, your software developers can use the cloud-based service provider to develop the software. So that also has an impact. So it's a platform. So the cloud providers are also providing platforms for developing new applications and so on. Infrastructure as a service is probably most to do with hardware. For example, you don't need to have data storage server on your backyard of your company. You can actually store your files, emails, and all kinds of stuff, videos in the cloud. So it's like a IT hardware infrastructure as a service. So those are, at a broad level, the services provided by cloud. What are the benefits for a small business, or including large businesses, of cloud computing? The biggest benefit, we could say, is IT capital and maintenance cost savings. Previously, if you want to implement a ERP system in a medium-sized company, you require $1 million or $2 million to actually implement some of the advanced software systems. Now, you don't need to install. You don't need to buy a huge Hewlett-Packard server software systems, or you don't need to actually buy SAP Business One, but you could actually access SAP services through their cloud. You could access HP's services through the cloud, and so on. So you don't need to invest your capital resources, but you could actually pay as you go, basically, in that sense. Scalability. For instance, some of the large websites in the Middle East, probably during Ramadan, or in the Western countries during Christmas or Mother's Day, they will be having huge traffic. You require more processing power during the peak times. In traditional models, you actually need to expand the storage system, the processing power of your servers at your company. Whereas in the cloud era, you don't need to. You actually need to call or interact through online. You actually call your cloud provider and say, right, my demand or consumer demand is going to go up next month because it's Christmas time or Ramadan time. Therefore, I require more processing power and I require more space and so on. So they will increase the capacity. So the scalability, dynamic scalability, is one of the big advantages. Simplicity and security, of course. Security, a lot of people think, well, my data is on the cloud. I'm not sure that it's secure because I would want to own and lock it in a server room at my company. But imagine in this age where the viral attacks, the hackings and so on and so forth, a cloud provider has the economies of scale to implement advanced security systems, whereas a small business may not have that. Including large corporations, because if you take Royal Dutch Shell or some other large company, they're not IT companies. Whereas a service provider like Microsoft, HP, or SAP, they are IT experts in their own fields. So they would have much more tools, strategies, and technologies and investment geared towards providing advanced security layers. Whereas on your own, you don't have that capability. So I believe, and many people believe, that a cloud provider has much more tools, a lot more tools to provide advanced security, and it's simple. Pricing, of course, we covered that. Because it's pay per user, you could switch on and off the cloud service you require. Lower management, if you want to update your software or the newer version, because it's cloud provider, they can do it pretty fast and quite quickly. Increased collaboration, like Mr. Ranjan has covered. Your employees, whether it's a small company or a large company, they can access the software or the functionality anywhere in the world from their home and so on. So that improves the collaboration between the staff and actually promotes innovation in companies as well. So a company now can actually focus more on its core business rather than spending too much time on learning technology, implementing, buying the servers, and so on. You could actually outsource it to cloud and actually focus on your core business because of this new cloud computing era. That improves competitiveness of a company, faster time to market, because you could actually focus on your products, innovation, designing products, and so on, rather than worrying about software and hardware. So several benefits of cloud computing. Now, with benefits come some challenges as well. So what are the key challenges in the cloud model of e-business adaptation? You would have limited control on resources because if you're actually accessing IT infrastructure, software, and so on through cloud, you can't actually see anything. Of course, your computers or PCs in the office becomes more or less, terminals and so on. So you would have limited control on resources to a certain extent. People sometimes worry about privacy and security of data. What I mean by privacy is, well, I'm working on some nuclear reactor designs, and if I am actually, or drug development, if you take Glaxo or companies like that, if I am going to put my quite considerably business competitive information on the cloud service provider, is it really a sensible thing to do? But there are solutions for those challenges. If you are actually using large cloud service provider who have established brand name, who has established service quality levels, then you shouldn't be worried about it, because Microsoft, with billions of market capitalization, is not going to steal your data. They have big fish to fry. So I think you could have reasonable trust on many cloud service providers today. So privacy and security is not a big issue if you are choosing the right cloud provider. Reliability, performance, and bandwidth. Bandwidth could be a big issue because if you are using a cloud provider in Europe or in the United States and the bandwidth isn't great in your office, then or at the cloud provider end, it could be a problem in terms of workflow and the speed of workflow. So you need to take care of those elements. You need high-speed broadband in order to make use of cloud service provision effectively. Visibility of software, customization. Now, of course, the cloud service provider has range of services like software and so on, but they're not going to customize the software or customize the infrastructure specific to your needs, especially small and medium companies' needs. So you need to adjust to someone else's systems and processes to a certain extent. So you would lose some of the customization part or flexibility part in terms of using a software. You need to adjust yourselves to the standard services provided by the cloud service provider. So customization could be a challenge, but given the advantages, that need not be a big challenge. Compliance and regulations. This could be a big issue. Especially, but you need to check with your cloud provider about this issue, simply because if you take European Union regulations, the customer data of European customers, if you're operating in European Union, you cannot actually take the customer data outside European Union. Some of the regulations restrict that. So the data center of your cloud provider must be based in the European Union in order to do that. So you need to check those regulations before you go big bang on the cloud computing or using the cloud computing. So those are a couple of challenges, but many advantages as you're seeing. Okay, just last 2 slides. And the current trends in the cloud-based services, what are the cloud-based services the companies are using a lot nowadays? A lot of companies are using cloud for backup and storage because the economies of scale and the cheaper cost, this is one of the areas where a lot of small businesses and large businesses are using cloud. Email, back office apps, web analytics like Google Analytics are used quite heavily. Computing infrastructure like processing power is provided by Amazon EC2, Eucalyptus, and several other examples. So computing infrastructure for processing power, cloud is providing quite good avenues. Collaborating, remote working, bring your own device, as Mr. Ranjan has covered. Even the high-end ERP systems are nowadays offered by large companies like SAP Business One, SAP HANA, Business by Design, and so on and so forth. So it's companies are using IT hardware infrastructure through cloud, IT software, and so on. So it's a combination of several aspects which are heavily used through the cloud model. what does that mean for SMEs? All these cloud services, challenges, advantages, what does that mean? Now the companies can, as I said, companies can focus on innovation and strategizing to improve their revenues and businesses. They can use quite advanced aspects like integrating their e-business or inventory systems and so on. Social media integration strategy. If you are an online retailer, social media strategy is quite important today. Like how you integrate the messages on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and forums, and so on. What we mean by that is if you have a new product launch, to update that information on each and every outlet like Facebook, Twitter, and so on could take huge amount of time. Now there are cloud-based services where you could actually update it one aspect and it updates everywhere else. So there are quite good cloud services which can take care of that kind of stuff. Web analytics, for paying under $100 per user, you could actually access advanced web analytics software provided by Google and several other companies. So you could analyze the consumer behavior patterns, the buying patterns on your website, where is the traffic coming from, how often the customers are buying, repeated purchases, and so on. Remote working and collaboration. As you'll see in the 1-minute video case study, a lot of companies can now offer their employees the opportunity to work from home, because in today's knowledge economy, that is becoming critical aspect, because commuting in busy cities is becoming difficult, and wasting time on roads is becoming more and more frequent. So providing remote access to the applications, to the functionality, to your employees to work anywhere, work from home, is becoming important. So an SME can now actually innovate, can actually have advanced IT technological functions, can actually compete with large corporations, and actually make their mark on a business landscape pretty quickly. So going back to our e-business landscape, you could see there are 3 zones. I don't know whether you could observe that. There are 3 zones. The white box, left-hand corner, in traditional models was mostly small businesses. The gray area in the middle is medium enterprises. The top layer is mostly large organizations. So the large organizations traditionally were able to afford everything, whereas medium organizations weren't able to afford a few things, whereas small companies were able to only afford a few technologies, e-shops, and so on and so forth. Whereas now, an SME, the stick man, you could see, has moved. So a small business with a 3-man band company can now actually access world-class advanced technologies in terms of hardware and software, and provide innovative services, products to their customers. So that puts this small business, the stickman, in line with a large corporation today. Now that has huge impact on for today's and tomorrow's business landscape, because previously, because of the economic capabilities, the capital power of the large corporations, in just 2 or 3 years, that advantage of the capital power has been taken away. A small business can now compete with a large corporation because of the cloud model. So that is quite an important impact of the cloud computing. A list of cloud service providers, but I would like to summarize by probably a statement. If you are a large company, given the cloud computing era and the innovative capabilities of SMEs today, don't be complacent. If you're a small business or an SME, don't be afraid to use the advanced technologies, because they are available at affordable cost, and you could innovate using the cloud computing era on the e-business landscape and grow pretty fast. So I think with that message, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kondal. That's very enlightening. One thing, if I may say, about education and about all this There is a big difference in the culture. You know, one of the things when I have learned, or when I went to university and went to work, there is a big difference in the culture, and the culture of education, especially when it comes to technology. I'll give you two examples. 15 years ago, when we were trying to promote e-government solutions to some of the countries in the Arab world, one of the clients 15 years ago said to me, in Arabic, of course, he said, Habibi, we have all that done, you know? That was 15 years ago. I was shocked. I said, how? He said, we have email, so whatever we need, we send email and we receive email. And the same thing, I was advising one of the companies a few years before that, and the first thing I proposed was to create an email address for the whole company, not for every employee, for the whole company, one email address. I was called by the chairman and the owner of an enterprise worth billions of dollars, saying, Muhammad, you have created an email for the company. I said, yes. He said, I want to know the cost of the email sent and received. So there is a big difference in the culture, especially when it comes to technology. And we have Ms. Linda with us here today, which is from the customer side. She will enlighten us a lot about whatever we have said, how they hear it, what they think about it. We always tell them this is the fastest, the best, and the latest, you know. And they have a big say in the whole thing, I guess. Because without them, there is no point of having the whole technologies and innovations if the customer at the end of the day don't see the benefit behind whatever we are trying to do. So Ms. Linda, please.
Good morning. I'm going to go back about 13 years, 14 years. I was involved in one of the largest outsourcing deals that was done in the UK and Europe. The outsourcing deal transferred 500 employees to the outsourcer. It was expected to raise or to save 450 million US dollars over the term of the contract, which was 10 years. And was anticipated that the contract would save over $1 billion US dollars over the term. The contract would be valued at over $1 million US dollars after 10 years. A few years later, I then again was back in negotiations for an outsourcing deal, and we were outsourcing 6 data centers internationally around the world into a single data center based in the US. To do these deals took us tens of lawyers, 30, 40 technical experts, and we were stuck in a room for 8, 9 months negotiating the deals. I see cloud computing, or I see outsourcing as an evolution of outsourcing. Today, cloud computing means that even the smallest of organization can be off-premise, and you don't need the millions of dollars of some of the big organizations did at the time. So that's enough about history. I'd like to share with you some of our experiences at Ahmed Mansour Al Ali. Ahmed Mansour Al Ali is probably one of the oldest construction companies in Bahrain. We have 4,000 employees, 300 IT users. We have a diverse portfolio of contracting, manufacturing, steel fabrication, and retail. So it's not one solution fits all. When I joined the company 2 years ago, we were going through quite a lot of change. The company was just completing a major restructuring of the organization. We were taking 15 business divisions, and we created 5 new business sectors: contracting, building materials, structural fabrication, AMA Motors, and AMA Sports. This resulted in a shift from what we needed. They'd been very decentralized, and we were moving to much more of a centralized model, at least at a sector level. To IT, what that meant to me and to my team was, including our project sites, we managed over 25 locations throughout Bahrain. Those could range from 3 people in one room or to an office of 50 or 60 people. And with that came the infrastructure and the telecommunications and everything that needed to run those individual offices. As an example, we had 5 different finance systems across the group, including one that was 25 years old, that there was one person in Bahrain that could manage that system, if we could find him, but he was there. The next sort of challenge was communication and collaboration. Communication and collaboration to us was pretty much moving big bundles of paper over different people's desks to get the right signatures, or the use of a landline. Email wasn't widely used, partly because people were suspicious of the stability, or some of our smaller divisions, or some of the divisions, would go out and buy their own email solutions. So they would use Yahoo Business, or in worst case scenarios, they'd use personal email. That again made it difficult for us to keep track of information. If someone left and they had used their own personal email, then it walked. We no longer had access to that information. Finally, there was the applications and the infrastructure. The applications no longer fitted the business need, and the platforms were at the end of life. There needed to be significant investment in both applications and infrastructure if we were to meet the business need. So these were some of the challenges we had. But what were the objectives of business and what were the objectives of IT? Well, there were some of our objectives were shared. We all wanted stability in the existing services. We had to keep the business running, so it wasn't as if we could just stop and change everything. So we needed that stability. We needed communication stability, whether that was in email or in telephones or whatever it was. Data security. Confidence that our data was being secure, and it was being backed up, and it could be recovered if need be. And then there was the applications. There was a desire to look at new applications, and particularly an ERP solution, because 5 finance systems didn't make an ERP solution. In addition to that, as IT manager, I had certain objectives too. That stabilization that I spoke about had to come with minimum investment and didn't tie me into any particular vendor. Because I didn't know, once we'd actually devised a full strategy, where we were going or what we'd use. I needed to develop an enterprise architecture, because at the moment, all I had was a collection of servers in 25 locations. That architecture had to be scalable and it had to be flexible. And also, I didn't want to be building a big complex architecture, and equally a big IT team. Another key objective was actually to seek out partners that we could work with, that understood our business and I could actually work with, so that I didn't need to build all of the services in-house. And finally, time to value. To have the ability to adopt services quickly for the business. After gaining that first piece of stabilization, our attentions, myself and the business, our attention turned to actually the future and what was next. And obviously that was ERP. The vision of our ERP was to deliver processes and controls to establish integrity and transparency and credible information. To identify and ensure a single source of master data. Business intelligence, reporting. The ability to measure expenditure, budgets, and to monitor efficient use of processes. In addition, the programme also had to address some of those key issues that we had problems with: communication and collaboration, network access, and security. So the selection process had two work streams. One was selecting the right product, or the suite of products based on the business requirement. But secondly was deciding what was the most appropriate architecture and the delivery method. So we analysed all the methods: on-premise, off-premise, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, all of these things. And then obviously the cost. So there's the cost of implementing, the cost of procuring a hardware, training, building a team. But then there were the hidden costs. So of staffing, ongoing maintenance, upgrades, hardware refreshes, fitting out a data center or centers if we needed to. And even though my preference and my background had came from outsourcing, I still kept an open mind as to what would be best for the company. But I've got to admit, I didn't want to be building complex infrastructures and specifying air conditionings and the best fire suppressant systems that were there. I wanted to use the experts. So after all that analysis, after consideration, we settled on an off-premise private cloud with the ability to utilize public cloud offerings where they were appropriate. We went for a private cloud at the moment because we felt with our diverse business, we couldn't quite get the right fit in the public cloud, but we didn't want to completely shut that off. Our private cloud is hosted with Rackspace, one of the leaders. And managing the infrastructure, we have a local partner who helps in the managing the application side of it. The architecture is highly scalable and flexible, and it's allowed us to address some of our immediate problems. So even though we were looking at the bigger ERP problem, and we're going to implement that this year, in April last year, we implemented our Exchange environment, our Active Directory on the cloud, on our private cloud. In addition to that, we adopted our network security service, which is delivered by the cloud. This has proved extremely successful to us. If I look at our Exchange environment in the last year, we've had 6 minutes of downtime on our Exchange environment, on our email environment, compared to the previous year or the previous 2 years, where it was, we could easily be out, 6 days, or the business came to expect. Another key thing is the fact that we can actually attribute costs. I now can look at, the number of seats in a division and charge per seat, but I can also charge by data. So this, depending on what the division is, they use a terabyte of data or half a terabyte of data, but we're able to charge that back to the business. Taking on from one of the earlier points, there are some challenges though, and there are some particular things that you need to take into consideration. And this is my advice. When you're looking at negotiating any of these services on the cloud, you need to look at the SLAs. It's important to consider what's their time of response. If it's creation of a mailbox, how quickly is it? Will they do it in an hour? Will they do it in 2 hours? Is it 4 hours? Or if you need to add new data, how quickly you can add new data to your services. Additionally, the contract has got to be flexible. Gone are the days, I say back in 2000, where you negotiated a 10-year contract. I certainly can't look 10 years out in IT at the moment, and I doubt any of us in this room could really look at 10 years out and know what the services are going to look like and how we'll manage those services. So the contracts need to be as short as possible, but obviously needs to give both parties the benefit of being able to take advantage. But the contracts have got to be negotiated in such a way that at least at various points through the contract, you can review that contract and make sure if it's still fit for purpose, or if there have been major technology changes, that you've got an opportunity to address that and look at it. Or if the business grows significantly, what does that mean to your services? Or if your company shrinks, what does that mean? You don't want to be left with all these services. So again, it's about scalability. In addition to ERP and the enterprise, we have done some other things in the company. Our project sites, as you can imagine, are construction sites. They're temporary sites. They're generally pretty harsh environments. A lot of dust and sand, and connections can be cut by a piece of machinery fairly frequently. But that's where the heart of a lot of our business is, and it's where a lot of our information is created. So see, these sites are particularly important. Traditionally, when these sites were set up, we would have multiple telephone lines and data lines, PABXs, servers. And we've gradually changed that, and we now have a blueprint for those sites. We can mobilize those sites very quickly. We now no longer look at traditional PABX systems. We use a cloud-based IP solution, which again is fully scalable. We go to our provider, we ask for an extra line, within the day we have an extra line, we have a new extension number. And I see from my perspective as the IT manager, it means it's a managed solution. So again, I'm not having to build big IT teams to support this environment. We've also made some changes in some of our sites to get away from having 25 servers all located in different locations. In our factory complex, we've created the connectivity between the buildings through laying fiber or wireless technology, which has allowed us to consolidate some of those servers into one location, which allows then the business to look at shared services, which when we look forward to our ERP and to moving more services onto the cloud, it'll be a lot easier. So that's some of the stuff that we've done within AMA. We've got a long way to go. As I say, our first step was building that foundation in our private cloud. That foundation now allows us to look at new services. So if the business does come to me and say, we found this product, add value to us, we can look at it and we can get it online very quickly. Whereas before, I would have had to have looked at, does it need a server? What size of server? How much data? And particularly, particularly in this part of the world, when we try and order equipment, and I get told it's going to take 4 weeks for a server to arrive. By that point, the business has moved on to something else. But just to finish, and what my role now is IT manager or your head of IT. I've heard that CIO no longer means Chief Information Officer, but it means your career is over. But I don't think that, and I definitely don't believe it. By taking away a lot of the infrastructure headaches that we have, or challenges that we have, we can focus much closer on the business. We can look at the opportunities that are out there. And we get involved very much more in the business. So that's, which I think is the best way to be going. So, okay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Linda. That was a very interesting view from the customer point of view. And then my view is a very brave view. Normally, I'm used to customers from this part of the world. They are usually, I will not say always, very shy in expressing and saying how things are, how things really are, what's the real pain, what's the real challenges. And it's a very brave view from Miss Linda. I think unless you face it, basically, unless you are brave in talking about what's the real challenge, how to change it, and talking about the change will never happen. Uh, I leave the floor now for questions and answers. If you have any question, if you have any point, you have any debate, you have any view, you can go ahead and ask it or write it for us. We will be sitting for a few minutes to take that. Regarding big data and this, there will be another speech, there will be another session for that. So for the big data questions, the heavy questions about the big data, let's leave it for the heavyweight session, if you don't mind me saying. And other than that, you can go ahead and ask any question you want. We will try to do our best in answering. Sheikh Abdullah.
But I just wanted to pick up on the last presentation from Linda. Quite fascinating, to be quite honest, that you've managed to make such a move. I mean, having such a major company and go cloud-based. My question is, did you move from a legacy-based system of applications to the cloud, or did you also switch those legacy-based applications to similar applications that are cloud-friendly or cloud-based? Because one of the major shifts or problems when you go to the cloud is, how do you, first of all, train your staff to use, if you're going to use a new system, and the whole concept of using the cloud in general, because and the legacy softwares and legacy applications are heavily tied to the psyche or the attitudes of the employees. So how did that shift move about? Thank you.
We had both. The decision to go with the cloud was part of our ERP strategy. That the infrastructure that we had and the existing services weren't what we would go forward with in the future. So it was as far as the legacy systems are concerned, the legacy systems, though some we intend to move into the cloud, but it's more from an infrastructure perspective, because I see the servers are coming to end of life. So we may move some stuff over then. But our intention is that our ERP system will all be on the cloud. Email was obviously our legacy email, so we did do a data migration exercise when we moved that across. And I see when we're looking at new applications, we do look at, one of the first things we look at is, is there an offering on the cloud that can do that for us? So quite often the business will still come possibly with traditional software that they found, and I say then my team will go out and possibly look and see whether there's an alternative. So for me, when I took on the role of head of IT, and I looked at what we had, some people said to me it was great, because I almost had a greenfield site, because everything needed changed. But see, sometimes that's more difficult, because there is a bit of history there is some legacy. So, but as I say, I had the benefits of both. I could almost look at it as a greenfield site.
Thank you, Ms. Linda, and thank you, Sheikh Abdullah, for the very practical question. Any other questions, please?
Regarding the cloud security, Is there any special security for cloud other than the client-side security or server-side security or in the media security, which is applicable only specifically for cloud?
I think the question is multiple-fold, as you could see. Probably a recent example, a real-life example. We work with a local company who sells darts. It's called Darts Corner. We received a call. They actually put almost all their applications on the cloud, their website, their web analytics, their databases, their email systems, everything is on the cloud. We have a knowledge transfer partnership, our university has a knowledge transfer partnership with this company. They said, well, we have a big problem. So what is it? Well, our website is hacked, and somebody has actually put a replica website, and they don't know where this replica website is hosted. So they actually put a replica website and actually taking the credit card details as if they are selling the product. So they got the information, or they hacked into the original site of this company and capturing the customer names and actually sending the emails to those customers to come back to this fake site. So, and customers are thinking, oh, well, that's a good offer. Let me go back to this website and buy something. So they're actually buying, and then they're providing the credit card information. But this is not the original site. This is a fake website. To actually trace this website, it took a couple of days. And then we took the fake website down, and it appeared again in 2 days in totally different part of the world, but doing the same thing. So the summary, we sorted it out eventually. They were using the SQL injection into the original site to capture the names of the customers. Just because you put your applications on the cloud, that doesn't mean you're 100% secure. Now, the security, going back to your question, the security applies to the cloud provider, the servers, which are the software you are hosting on the cloud provider, but also some kind of applications reside on your PC or the dumb terminal, you could say. So you need to cover the security at your end, your company end, as well as in the SLA, the service level agreement. You need to take care of or ensure that things are secure on the cloud service provider side. So on the cloud service provider, basically the security layers include protecting the database and several other things. On the client side, again, making sure that the apps which reside on the client side are protected with appropriate antivirus softwares, and also making sure that you have inbuilt aspects on your website or the client. So it's both on client side and the cloud computing or server provider side you need to take care of. The range of security threats, the range of security layers you need to install are wide-ranging. So I think the key point is to ensure that when you sign up to a cloud provider, the SLA covers various threats and ensures that, so explore those. What are the security aspects the cloud service provider are actually giving, and those things. So SLA with the cloud provider is critical to manage those security risks.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
One of the things also you need to focus is the communication channel. Because often we focus on the server, we focus on client, and we forget how do we communicate. So that need to be encrypted, or is it going through the SSL? That's also very crucial. And a lot of time, that's where the attack starts, the spoofing, phishing, everything is focused over that.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, from the guest. And thank you, everybody, for your time and for the attendance. I know you have a lot more questions. The time is we are reaching the end of the time. We took longer than we anticipated, but we'll be around to answer any other questions. The guest will be around today and tomorrow, and you have more sessions to enjoy and to attend. Wish you a great day and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.